All right, so the first recording today is just going to be kind of inspirational, and then I'll do an actual lecture on templates in a second. So one of the reasons why I do the RPG 41 assignment with you is so that you can get experience working with people in groups. Computer science majors tend to not be very social, and so working with other people can often be uncomfortable. There could be social issues. I've had meltdowns in my class before when I had a executive partnered with a slacker, and the executive was like, all right, we need to block out time and schedule it in, and you know like meet regularly during the project to get it done. And the slacker was just like, dude, let's just do it the night before it's due. And she ended up screaming at him in class like, if you were my employee, I would fire you. And he was like, lady, if I was your employee, I would quit. Um and those kinds of like interpersonal conflicts. I've gotten a lot of emails from students over the past couple days saying like my partners didn't pull their weight, or I didn't pull my own weight, and so I'm going to have a fudging system on the points to adjust the points of individual members of a group where situations like that occurred. Um, but yeah, like most people think of computer science as like this like lone wolf endeavor, and to be fair, like when I ran my own business, it was very lone wolfish. I would occasionally hire a second programmer or something to do something that I didn't like doing, like web design kind of stuff. I mean, I did it, but like I didn't like it, and so I'd prefer like giving money to somebody else so I wouldn't have to do it, because that's kind of the point of money. Like the whole point of money is like have other people do things for you. You know, like everyone has a price, for like what they'll work for to make a website. And if like it annoys me more than it costs me money, then I'll pay money for somebody else to do it. So it's like, prior to the pandemic, we had a maid come in and clean our house because I didn't particularly like doing toilets and things like that. And so I would work and then use my money that I got paid for my time to hire somebody else and have their time clean the toilet, because they didn't mind cleaning toilets and I didn't mind teaching, and so it all kind of worked out. That's basically what money is. Money is crystallized time. Basically, you're handed crystallized time for your time, and then you can hand it to other people, and they'll cash it in for their time. And then you can hopefully do the things that you like and get paid lots of money for things you like doing. That's the ideal scenario. For example, making this 3D rendering engine in an hour or so, maybe 2 hours, is like one class of IS-50V 2 years ago where we wrote this. And that's ideal. But in reality, like most of the time, you're not going to be working alone, right? If you're working for Microsoft, if you're working for Square, Twitter, something like that, you're not usually working alone. You're almost always on a team with other people. And so learning how to communicate with them and learning how to schedule time together, and learning how to use GitHub. Like GitHub is so important. We're probably going to have an actual assignment where you have to use GitHub in the future. For this one, it was sort of optional but encouraged. Like one group completely lost all of their source code files, which was a big oof, right? When you are working on a giant homework project and all of your source code goes away, that's a disaster, and that's only with a minor project like this, which in all seriousness, working a week or two isn't like losing all of the source code for your company ever, over the past 10 years. So the if you use GitHub, then GitHub maintains not only a copy of your source code independently, so like if your computer dies, you don't lose anything because it's all in GitHub, but also it maintains versioned copies of all of your source code, so that if you screw up and you accidentally break a function, you don't know why, you can look at the previous versions of it and be like, oh, that's what I did. And then you can revert your code back to the way it was before it was broken. So that's why GitHub is so useful. That's why everyone uses it. GitHub itself is not the best design for source code control. In my opinion, it's good at what it was designed for. It was designed for the Linux kernel. Like Linus Torvalds, the guy who wrote Linux, also wrote Git, and he wrote it specifically for managing all these thousands of contributors to the Linux kernel, where they could fork it and then merge it back in and all this kind of stuff. For a lot of small groups where you've got like 5 people, like you don't need that. And in fact, Git breaks if you try using it with like game development. So you have to use something called Git LFS, because if you use Git with like game assets, like it breaks everything. Like it's a disaster. So yeah, pretty much every major company I know, like Microsoft, not like small people, like Microsoft, like all of them have had um, serious issues with Git at various times. Like they've all had to like fully just like delete an entire like Git archive and like rebase or like reset or basically just have to drop a grenade on the whole thing and just and then start over essentially because they screwed up their Git so badly. So Perforce is used for game development, but it's also terrible in its own way. I don't know. I feel like there's still a niche for somebody to actually do source code control and versioning right. I'm partial to Mercurial myself, but most people don't use it, so I don't know. Anyhow, so yeah, like if you were working on a project and like your partners like didn't do anything, yeah, that's how it works in the real life. Like right now, I'm working on a textbook, questions on a textbook with West Point and Swarthmore College, right? And the person, I'm not going to name names, but goes to a top tier university, professor at a top tier university. All he had to do was write 6 questions, multiple choice maybe, involving if statements. If the input is Godzilla, then see how it roar. If the input was King Kong, go like that's it. Like 6 questions, like the kinds of things that professors can just like knock out like that, right? Not a lot. And like a month goes by and he didn't do anything, and then said, oh, I'm busy, and then another month goes by and nothing, and then another month goes by and nothing, and ends up doing nothing for the entire project. And so I ended up just being like, yeah, this guy's not going to do anything, and so I just did it all myself, and so at the meeting yesterday, they were like, hey, somebody's going to need to go and do the work that this professor kind of didn't do. And I'm like, don't worry about it, I got it, I did it already. And that's just like how life is sometimes. You can complain about it not being fair or whatever, and it's probably not. But sometimes, yeah, like in the real world, you just gotta pick up the slack for other people sometimes, and that's just the reality of it. And sometimes you're gonna let other people down, and sometimes they're gonna let you down, and you can let it be all acrimonious and do like laugh emojis and things like that at each other, for failing. But in general, like, like I'm sure he had things going on. At the same time, like I'm pretty sure probably at some point in those 3 months he could have spent the hour or so it would have taken to do the work. Like I'm pretty sure he could have managed. It wasn't hard. Like it was just writing quiz questions for if statements. It's not hard. But at the same time, like when people are juggling a lot of things, if you're not tenured yet, like yeah, I'm sympathetic. Like it's like okay, it's fine. So you just kind of have to be ready to just welcome to the real world, buddy. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, you just have to be ready to just like pick up the slack for people sometimes, and that's just kind of how it is. And RPG 41, was designed to be cleanly broken into 3 pieces. And so in a lot of the groups, one of the persons just didn't do their work, and so you have to be prepared to like do it for them, and is it fair? No, not really. It's really not, but that's literally what I'm doing right now in my own life. So um also this assignment was designed to give you something a little bit bigger in scope than like our traditional homework assignments where it's just like write a little linked list, like our current thing, right? If you guys don't know, we have a coding challenge going on right now, coding competition for queues and stacks, and this is like a little trivial thing, right? Like you're just going to use a list to like implement a queue in a stack. It's like a couple lines of code per function call. It's small, and in the real world, like you're not going to do things this small. So RPG 41 was kind of a taste of like what it's like to try and manage a project with like multiple source code files and different people working together and kind of a bigger scope than just like a little trivial program like this. Now, the reason why we do trivial programs like this is so you understand the basics, right? Because like if you can't do a small thing, you can't do a big thing. And so I the difficulty on homework assignments in my classes swings between easy to medium to sometimes unintentionally very difficult, and then back, right? And that's deliberate because you can't just be given all easy pitches. You have to be given a curveball sometimes. You have to be given a fastball sometimes, and that exercises you and challenges you in different ways. So it's actually quite deliberate. Like this one is much easier than RPG 41, and that's so that you can understand what a stack and a queue is and how you can use a data structure to implement a different data structure, and then eventually for the second half of it, write your own linked list and see how you can drop in a substitute data structure, right? So instead of using the standard library list, you're going to use your list and just switch it out, and then voila, you got it should just work if you did it correctly. So, all right, so yeah, for those of you disheartened by your performance on RPG 41, don't be. Just keep at it. Okay, do your best, and lessons learned and all that stuff. If you're worried about your grade, there's plenty of extra credit in this class. Like we've had 2 extra credits in like the last 5 days or something like that. Like just keep at it. Take the loss if you have to. Don't cheat. Had 15 people cheated on classes competency exam 1, and then more than that actually. But like the other ones, it was like a line or 2 taken from ChatGPT, and that wasn't enough for me to just like drop a bomb, and be like, go talk to the dean and all that kind of stuff. So it was more than 15 out of the 101 people in this class. Now lower. One of the persons, yeah, like some of them have dropped out, but yeah, just take the L. Just take the L, and then the competency exams can be retaken up to 4 times. Just do your best. And if there's something that you're weak at, work on it. Like if you don't understand linked lists, work on it. If you don't understand pointers, work on it. There's tons of resources. Mincarelli has a review that you can watch a video on. There's a Zybooks on pointers. There's a Zybooks on linked lists. There's me. I have office hours, 4 hours a week. You just have to grind. You just have to stay on the grind and get it. Like all of these concepts are not optional. Like you have to understand like all of them like pretty well. And so if there's something where you're kind of like tenuous at, and most people are tenuous at pointers and linked lists, like trust me, like most people are at this point. Like you don't really get it until like you've used pointers a lot. And so this class is where you're going to be using pointers a lot and kind of understanding the purpose for them and the syntax and like how things work. But you just have to, but you just keep failing. Yeah, just keep trying. Just keep trying. Eventually, we'll run out of time in the semester, but we still got 10 weeks before then. So mix up the due date on the first C, your grades down the garbage. It'll be fine. You can retake it. Okay, so you only took it 2 times. Yeah, there's 2 more. There's 2 more competency exams. I'm just rethinking the whole thing because of the 15 to 20% of students cheating on it has made me kind of like I now have to like go back to the drawing board, be like, all right, how do I assess students and not ChatGPT? Would you be able to present later on if there's time? Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have time today for it. Because now let me stop this. So be inspired, work hard, keep trying, don't give up. I know the drop deadline's coming up, but like seriously, like even if you don't feel confident, like nobody should feel confident. You're still a first year, at Hogwarts, right? Like, you're not expected to know that it's Wingardium Leviosa yet, right? It's just an ongoing process. You should be at a certain level comfortable with sucking. Like just be comfortable with being bad at something. And a lot of students aren't, especially A-level students just aren't comfortable with not understanding something and not being good at it and having to work hard and grind and fail and try again and things like that. So my advice is just to hit up the Zybooks, hit up the hacker rank, where you can do linked list, problems, bonus problems, test your knowledge, hit up Code Kata, Code Wars. Dude, looking at something as a first step towards being good at something. Yeah, exactly. exactly. You know, you just have to be comfortable with the fact that you're not going to be instantly a master at something. That's something my daughter constantly, you know, has trouble with. I took her to kendo when she was like 7, you know, because we'd been doing sword fighting, and so she gets there and she starts crying, and the old Japanese guy's like, "What's the matter, little girl? You know, I know sword fighting can be scary." She's like, "No, no, I've been sword fighting since I was 1." He's like, "Well, what's wrong then? Why are you crying?" She's like, I just thought I'd be better at it." Her first day, you know, first day, she was just wanting to instantly be killing people, you know, stabbing him in the throat and stuff like that. Just, just okay, all right. So now we're going to talk about templates.